I was primarily an extemporaneous speaker when I was at Jewell, but there's no time card, no timekeepers that I see, so I'll stick to a script, I think, just to be on the safe side. I came to William Jewell as a freshman in the fall of 1962. Back in the day, freshmen wore beanies, small billed hats with your prospective graduation year on the front. I came to William Jewell with what I thought were very clear vocational aspirations. I was planning to be a Presbyterian minister. When I graduated Jewell 4 years later, I still had very clear vocational focus, but it had changed significantly. I was now planning to become a college English teacher. Jewell faculty had helped me understand my gifts and talents in a way that helped me refine my goal, the goal that I had brought. I married my high school sweetheart, also a Jewell grad, class of 1966. Dr. Chastain has told you we honeymooned over final week. What she didn't tell you was that in order to do that, I had to pass French, second year French, and had an exam the day before our wedding that would determine whether or not the honeymoon would come off or not. Thereafter graduation, we headed off to a post-Jewell future in graduate school for me and later for Carol. I was at the University of Tennessee, as you've heard. Fast forward to today. I did follow my dream to become a teacher, but what I wound up teaching took a turn or two along the way, as you may have guessed. For the last 39 years, with the exception of one academic year in the mid-1990s, when I taught undergraduates at the U.S. Military Academy at West Point, I have taught in law school. How did I manage to get from there to here? Well, I like to think back to a drama class that I had with Professor Richard Harriman and a line of dialogue from a then contemporary absurdist play we read in class by Edward Albee called The Zoo Story. At one point in the play, the character Jerry tells Peter, the other character in the play, sometimes a person has to go a very long distance out of the way to come back a short distance correctly. And for many years, I've thought back to that bit of dialogue, which I think in many ways captures my own academic story. I won't try to drag you through a tendentious recounting of all the steps along the way that marked my path to teaching, but I will hit a couple of high points to maybe show you what I'm talking about. From Jewell to the University of Tennessee, at the suggestion of the head of the English department, Professor Herman Wilson. Herman had done his own doctoral work at UT and wrote a nice letter of recommendation for me. I had particularly loved my English courses at Jewell and was an English major. Dr. Wilson's course in Milton, I will say, is one of the best courses that I ever had anywhere in 8 years of postgraduate education after Jewell. Very good teaching went on at this place then, and I understand that it does now. I had hoped to teach someday in a college like William Jewell and emulate the teachers that I was fortunate enough to have here. After 3 years of graduate coursework at UT, I headed off to North Carolina State University in Raleigh to teach as an instructor in English, teaching sophomore English and freshman English classes. A chance to do some original work with a manuscript of colonial American legal writings that had largely eluded scholarly examination seemed to me like a great opportunity for my doctoral dissertation. As a consequence, though, the lure of law, nurtured by that dose of legal history, helped draw me away from English. And I left North Carolina State after only 2 years of teaching and started law school at Duke. I finished my dissertation during the first year of law school, something that I would never, ever, ever recommend to anyone. I graduated in '74, was admitted to the North Carolina Bar, joined the faculty of what was then called the Institute of Government at the University of North North Carolina. We dispensed legal advice to local government officials. I say during that period I practiced dog bite law. After 2 years at the Institute, the pull of classroom teaching drew me to try my hand at teaching in law school. And beginning in 1977, that became my vocation. I want to say that what saw me through the twists and turns of that vocational journey was the liberal arts education that I got at William Jewell College, which was in every sense the key that unlocked the door to a lifetime of opportunity. There is a point in Achievement Day talks where the speaker gives a shout out to acknowledge those professors who have meant the most to them in their time at Jewell. And I'd like to do that, even though most of the teachers that I'm going to refer to have either moved on from teaching at Jewell or, alas, have passed away. Dr. Georgia Bowman was my debate coach all 4 years at Jewell. She took us to the Pi Kappa Delta National Forensic Tournament in 1965 in Tacoma, Washington, and Jewell made it possible for me to compete and succeed on a national stage, and Dr. Bowman gave me the confidence and the opportunity to do that. I mentioned Dr. Wilson, who guided my transition to graduate school, but I'd also like to acknowledge Dr. Dean Dunham, who's unable to be with us today, Professor Harriman, who taught me Shakespeare, a wonderful class. Both were rigorous and inspiring models. I was fortunate to have Dr. Robert Linder for medieval history. I believe he is now an emeritus professor at K-State. And Dr. William Cuthbertson, who taught me American history. A few years back, I caught up with my New Testament teacher who left Jewell around the time I graduated, Dr. Barclay Newman. I can tell you briefly how that reconnection happened. I was browsing among used books at the City Lights bookstore in Sylva, North Carolina, waiting out a rainstorm, and happened across a copy of Dr. Newman's book on the meaning of the New Testament. The book, of which I was unaware until I found it, was actually published in 1966, the year I graduated. Dr. Newman was a teacher who opened my mind to the New Testament from both a critical and a historical perspective, and clearly altered the trajectory of my spiritual journey. I've mentioned I need to mention also Professor Adams, from whom I had only one political science course, but more than one classmate, I must say, thought I was a poli-sci major because of all of the organizations that I was involved in, which he either sponsored or mentored. Jewell faculty exemplified what could inspire and help me to become a teacher, the kind of teacher that I hope I have become. My wife Carol, who, as you know, her achievement was celebrated back 30 years ago. She's the one with all the brains. And I believe, Carol and I believe in Jewell and have contributed to a scholarship in honor of our parents for the last several decades. Recently, I was very touched to learn that a former law student of mine at Georgia State University had endowed a professorship in my name at the College of Law there. I am thankful that I have been able to carry out the vocational legacy which I feel I received here at William Jewell College, a true calling to teach. I want to say that over my academic career, I have worn many hats. As you know, academics are into hats. When I graduated from Jewell, I wore one like this, although the tassel was a little bit different. And later on, after I came to understand that academic headgear was a largely unregulated area, I transferred to a beefeater hat, which I think is a lot more stylish and a lot easier to wear. But the hat of which I am most proud, the hat that has meant the most to me, is the one that I donned in 1962.